pure form of carbon. It burns really hot and really clean. We've got that big old bellows there blowing in air and oxygen to get things nice and hot. And we want to see this steel change colors. We want it to be nice and bright, nice and orange like that. So we'll heat it up just a little bit more there. We'll start to make that into something that we need. Nice and hot, nice and soft, and we'll take our hammer here and just kind of straighten things up. And just by tapping and turning right there at the end of that piece of metal, we'll be able to taper that down nice and sharp, nice and pointy. What we're going to make here is just a little S hook. That metal into something we might need. I need a little S hook to hang on my chain there. We'll go ahead and start heating that up just a little bit. Now we tapered that down really square. What that allows me to do is actually twist that metal a little bit. So I'll show you guys how I can actually twist things. A little bend here at the back so I can twist the front. I just want a little twist on there. That's crazy. It's just a little teeny tiny twist right there at the end. Just fun. I'm going to take that and actually start to make that into our S hook now. We want to start by bending our first shape to the S, and we're going to use this part of our anvil called the horn. It just helps me to make all those curved shapes and things. There we go, nice and hot, nice and soft. We'll just start by bending that right on around. Bend it right here. It's called a convenience bend. This is really just going to help me to get my S hook deeper down into the fire. Bend that I put in there, just like this, just like my elbow bends. I'll be able to stick that right down into the heart of our fire and get that section of the metal. Yes. Now we do have to cut that off, and to cut that metal, we use this tool here called a hardy. It's the quickest and easiest way to cut a hot piece of metal. All I have to do is set it right on top and give it a few good swings with my hammer, and voila, it's cut right good. Stick that in the other way here. And we'll do the same process as we did for the first start. Just kind of in high speed. You'll get to see how a blacksmith really works with that metal when he's focused and actually trying to finish it. What we want to see is that bright orange color, and then we'll chop, turn, and bend it right on around. There we go, nice and hot. We'll take our hammer here and just by tapping and turning, we'll taper that right on down into that nice sharp point. Kind of straighten things going up for myself, and then bend that around that corner. And get the rest of our S hook. Take some of those unnecessary bends from that out. it's a fancy little S hook with just that little twist I put in there.
Is it cold?
Looks like a fishing hook. It looks like a fish hook.
I made all of those chain links for demonstrations just like this one for school kids just like you guys.
That is so cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
How high
I
is
could
it?
close that up and turn it into a chain link if I wanted to. And anything I can make, I can just make it. Yes,
Like
ma'am.
this?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you make these?
I made that whole chain right there that you're leaning on. Yes, sir. And thank you.
Yeah.
How long did it take?
Well, that chain in particular took quite a few weeks. Like I said, I made that chain to start with for school demonstrations and just teaching people how to make a chain. So it took me about 5 weeks to make, but I taught over 1,000 people how to make a chain.
Wow.
Just that one chain. So I'm quite proud of that chain. I really like that. Yes, sir.
How long did you stay?
What's that?
How long did you stay?
How long do they stay here? Well, they'll probably stay forever or until somebody like me gets in here and decides they want a better one.
No.
Did you make all the notes?
Yeah, I made lots of this stuff hanging here. I made this whole hanger for all these things. A lot of the hangers that you see here and a lot of the items that are on there. This is my own personal hook here with all the things that I've made.
Wow. Oh,
It's kind of dusty.
That's cool, huh?
But these are all the little S hooks and dried hooks and things that I've made. Little chain links. This one's kind of a fun chain link because it separates here.
and there's more right here.
This peacock is it.
We'll see if this little S hook can hold this.
You should try to link them.
This one's a fun one because it's the same way we just made this S hooks and that chain link.
But it's more like an 8 hook.
I can take apart.
Wow. Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I can take it
Magic.
wherever I want. That's right. It's made the same way. Those magicians hooks are made.
Yeah.
Right for this.
This is going to be so good for my YouTube channel.
What?
Yes,
this-
ma'am.
How many do you make per day?
Well, I have 23 demonstrations a day, so I try and make at least 25 things. That helps me to stay good in here as a blacksmith. So I like to make lots of stuff. And, you know, all the stuff that I do get a chance to make, we either give it off to our gift shop to sell and help support our shop, or we get to hang it up in here and show everything that we've made.
Can you make a knife?
That's what it is right there.
My apprentice here has got a pretty sweet knife that he's made himself.
Oh God.
Can't have that.
Of course.
Do they really have those?
Well, that's a good question. They didn't have these quite as early as Pedro Menendez, but these started coming to play after Pedro Menendez, and that's why we have one here in our shop. Because I still would have had ones in America. What they had before they had this to make those nails is this tool here. It looks like a spoon with a square hole in it, and you stick that sharp square nail through the hole and squish down the head over that spoon. And that's how they make
they
these
did that.
That was a cast piece of metal that's been hardened and tempered with that hole in there, and that's how we can hammer on it all day long without breaking it.
All right, last minute questions. We gotta go soon. James, what's your question?
Something that
Ask him, not me.
Yes.
Have you ever got hurt doing a demonstration?
Yeah, of course, all the time. You need water?
What, to eat? Hold on, let's ask him. He's confused about that tool you showed.
Which one?
The,
Machine?
no, the one that you just showed that they used to do before with the hole.
Oh. Yeah, this one. So they take their nail, and once they had it sharpened and pointed, they'd stick it through there, and they'd squish it down to make the head of their nail. It's spread over the top. It works by pressure. That's this tool here. So you'd stick that in there, break it off just above there, and once you squished it down, it'd make tack nails. So this is for little tack nails. I can't make rings. I made lots of rings. They had to make that tool to make the nails.
Alright, we gotta go. Can you please direct me to the sword firearms? Is that where the Lord flag is? Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you. So cool, guys. This is gonna be awesome.
Here, she gets to sit down over here. You walk slowly. Who are your other girls? Okay, Sarai and Emma.
Say cheese.
Leah, come on, y'all stay with me. You just stay with me.
Hello.
Sarai, come heading toward the
What kind of face is that? Jarvis is too bright. This is my trip to St. Augustine. I have some money right here. Like $30, I think. It looks like $10 to $20 though. Look at that. We're going to the firearms next. I might get demonetized for this. I'm vlogging my trip to St. Augustine and I might get demonetized for this.
I'm sorry, I can't start over. I say I can't start over, but they're welcome to join us. Okay. Anyway, does anybody know what this stuff is called? What?
Volcano.
What's it called?
Moss.
Yeah, what kind?
Spanish.
Spanish moss. But do you think the Spanish ever called it that?
No.
Absolutely not. It was an insult to them.
They called it.
But you know what? The Spanish didn't like their neighbors, the French. So the Spanish called it barba francesa, French beard, to insult the French, who, by the way, didn't call it that either. The only people who were nice about it were the Native Americans, who very simply and innocently called it tree hair, which, by the way, I like better than any of them anyway. So the tree hair goes down the barrel on top of the gunpowder. This is called the rammer or la baqueta. I ram this down on top of the powder, return the rammer. Now I have to deal with the match. I blow on it to make it burn as hot as possible. And I place it here in the jaws of this part called the serpentine. I want to make sure that the burning tip of this match is going to hit the powder in the pan right in the middle. The only way to test it is to lower the match down the pan lid to aim it to the right spot. Now, what do you suppose could happen if I'm doing this and I still had any gunpowder up here on the pan lid? Poof. All of a sudden, my face would be a big, ugly cookie, and the guy in front of me would be really upset when the gun goes off. Now, my commands are all in Spanish, but I'll tell you what they are in English first so you know what I'm saying. First command is prueben la mecha, which means prove the match. That's what I just did. Lower it and aim it. Second command, preparen. That means prepare or ready. You open the pan lid to expose the powder underneath. Third command, apunten. Point or aim. Now, what do you suppose the last command is?
Shoot.
Shoot or fire. Does anybody know what that command is in Spanish? Fuego. So when I say fuego, cover them thar ears, okay?
Are you gonna shoot it?
What do you think the sound left?
Prueba la mecha.
I thought it was the cannon.
Wait, put it. Apunten. Fuego.
Oof. Oof.
Now that was not a bad bang. But there's a better bang coming. Right down there where you see our flags flying, we have the only late 15th to early 16th century breech-loading, that means it goes to the back, not just the front, cannon being fired in the United States of America. And as much as it hurts my feelings to admit it, they're going to make a bigger bang than we can, as nothing we can do about it. Now, does anybody have any questions? Yes? Well, we have the ones we own.
What, do you want to buy one in the gift shop?
They don't sell these things.
Thank God. That'd be very
I don't think you probably brought enough.
Well, I'm gonna scare my sister.
I don't think it would go over with your parents and say, oh, we bought a gun at the... No, that your parents wouldn't be
Man, we
happy
bought a
about.
gun. It cost me $2.
When do they switch
What?
from?
Are there any?
I said that like I was just scared.
Over a very long... The first flintlocks, the earliest ones, came around in about 30 years from our time. It wasn't until the 1660s, about 100 years from now, that they started converting from matchlocks to flintlocks in different countries. The last country to make that conversion was Spain itself, because they liked matchlocks, but they got a new king who was French, and who thought the Spanish were and so he fired all the generals, fired all the armorers, and brought in thousands upon thousands of French flintlocks. The French had perfected the flintlock, and they didn't get here in time to save us from being burned to the ground by the English in 1702, but that's when the conversion started. Yes, miss? The rope is what sets off the gunpowder. It's burning very hot, and when that... Just a second. I have gunpowder here, right in here. It's closed off. Gunpowder down the barrel, bullet down the barrel, wadding down the barrel. Then we ram it down. Now, open the pan lid, and that exposes the gunpowder in here. Squeeze the trigger, and that lowers the match right down into the pan, and it goes in a very loud way. Anybody else? Are there any other questions? I'm happy to answer them. Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
You're welcome. Thank you. What?
Why do you have tree hair?
Well, it makes good wadding. Okay, suppose I'm carrying this gun. I've got gunpowder in it. And then I've got some just shot, regular shotgun shot in it. And I point the gun downward. What's going to happen?
It's gonna fall
Nope.
out.
What's going to happen? All the stuff in the barrel is going to roll right back out onto the ground. So the wadding holds all that in so it doesn't go anywhere. In Europe, we would use old pieces of shirts and whatever, but when we got here, this stuff worked out really, really well for us, so we started using that. Thank you for, yes.
What's that thing on the side of your
This? That's gunpowder. These are my flasks. That's what I hold my gunpowder in. But thank you for coming, and enjoy the cannon. Have a good afternoon,
We're going
or
there
a good morning.
Oh, this is the cannon. Okay, guys, we're going to the cannon now, I guess. Oh, we're doing this now. Put it. Okay, where's my group?
Did you get the gun shot?
Don't worry. Don't worry, Aaliyah. Got it. Say cheese. I'm making a video for my YouTube channel. Got my trip to St. Augustine.
Cameron, don't ask questions like that.
I started it at the blacksmith. Look at that cannon. Ella, Emma.
Guys, do you know where you're know where you're going.
I was saying Canada. Whoa,
Canada. No, Canada. We're not going to Canada. Right.
Oh, I thought the Canada was streaming there.
Come on, say cheese.
No. Cheese, no.
I will never see that.
Thank you.
What did he just do?
He did this right in front of my video.
What does that mean?
But people don't like it. I don't know what is he. Bop, boom, pow. Pow, down.
No, you can't see those. Which cannon do they shoot?
All of them.
Oh no, I just gotta record it.
I am recording. So far,
How much battery you got?
like half. I have 50 back.
I have 18.
That's because you didn't charge your phone in the bus.
Yes, you did. I did. But Jaden wants to play all the time.
Because I'm bored.
Stop. Read a book.
James, see how everyone in here is squished? Scoot down. We don't have to sit on top of each other. So without friends.
We don't?
My phone. Yes. Come sit over here by Emma.
Jaden, you're not allowed to play on his phone anymore. Understand?
James, we're taking a picture.
Or Ella.
Shoot the cannon already.
2 hours later.
Una, Alice, Lucia, later.
It's been like 5 minutes now, guys.
Whoa, that rock has shot.
Diego! Pew.
This feels like grabbing on anchors.
That guy's gun goes pow. Mine goes
Pew, pew, pew.
say cheese.
Cheese no. Cheese nose.
Cheese balls.
Cheese balls. Look at that rusty.
Look at that cannon.
Every single cannon.
This trip of St. Augustine is pretty cool so far.
I didn't think it would be this fun. Are you still recording? I'm getting anything ready.
Yep.
What time is it? Stop asking what time.
11:58. So 12.
12:30.
Okay, guys, after this, we're going to walk back to where we dropped off Miss Beretta's class, where the old jail is. When we are walking, we have to walk in a single file line. You know the one I asked you to walk in every day that we don't do? A single file line because we're walking on the road. Okay? What else is on the road? Cars. And what happens if the car hits you?
You die. Or get barely injured. Or your head pops up.
My mom got hit by a car.
Yeah, and I don't want to miss the whole day and have to go to the hospital. It really interferes with my plans. So, don't be that kid. Walk in a single file line, and then when we get to where the, don't record me. When we get to where the old jail is, we're going to have lunch. Haley, I think that will help you. You already ordered your sandwiches, chaperones, you know what sandwiches and drinks. Wait, yeah, drinks and lunch. I don't remember actually. No,
Bottled
drinks
water.
are dinner. Drinks are getting written on your purple paper. Okay. That's the most important part. Don't forget by
You guys another second or two to file it. So where are you guys here from?
Florida. La Florida. La Florida. Tallahassee.
It's all the way on the west end of the state.
Yeah, it's over the Panhandle.
Pensacola is in the west.
Yeah, Pensacola is a fun time. Alrighty, now that everyone's here, everyone having a good time at the park so far?
Yes.
Yep. Oh, another one. Alrighty, we're gonna give it another minute, let these guys file in. They probably all want to see the same shit you guys are about to see. So,
You guys know we're still in Florida.
yeah, I wonder if they're from Florida.
I said Tallahassee.
Me too. I didn't say anything.
America was Florida.
Because you're the small, quiet.
Yep,
I know,
exactly.
I've been teaching them that, and I'm like,
Stop
wait,
it, Jai.
That single file is so confusing.
You ruined my mood.
they're still pondering that. What does that mean? Yeah.
I'm trying to get this dirt from this side.
Getting a notification. Well, it's your grandma, so people can sit there.
Joyce,
Alright, I'll stop for
this is my food.
Stop filming.
Be quiet.
Alrighty, morning everybody. Everyone having a good time at the park so far?
Yes.
Alrighty, everyone excited to see us fire the cannon here in a few minutes?
Oh, yes.
Alrighty, well
No
before we do
crap.
that, I'm going to be telling you a little bit about the crossbow. So the crossbow was first invented by the Chinese in 600 AD. It's been around for a very long time. It was used heavily throughout the medieval period, made its way to Europe, got used by pretty much everybody, but by 1565, when Pedro Menendez was coming over to explore Florida, it was a pretty obsolete weapon. It was made obsolete by the matchlock arquebus, which you would have seen demonstrated over there. But there were still some uses for it, so Pedro Menendez brought about 30 with him. The main use you'd have for a crossbow in the New World is hunting. Because a matchlock arquebus, when you fire it, makes a lot of noise, scares away all the animals. A crossbow does not do that. The other upside of a crossbow is it reloads more quickly than an arquebus. The Spanish Army standard for loading an arquebus was about 45 seconds, which is a very long time if you're being fired at by angry natives. But a crossbow only takes about 15 seconds to reload, which is a lot shorter, almost a third the time. The third and final upside of a crossbow is that it can be fired when it's raining, which was a big problem here if you've ever had summer in Florida.
It is a third of a time.
Parts of a crossbow are very simple. This is a Flemish target bow, which is different from the war bows that they would have had, but the overall design is similar. At the front you have the prod. On this it's mid-size. On a war bow it would be very large. You also have the string, which would have been about the size of my finger on a war bow. The draw weight of this bow is about 75 pounds. The draw weight on a war bow would have been about 150 to 200 pounds, and you would have actually needed either a crank or a lever known as a goat's foot to pull that string back. The crossbow, the prod and the string, they sit on the tiller. It's called that because it kind of looks like the tiller on a boat. Moving towards the back, you've got your rolling nut and your clip. The rolling nut holds the string in place when it's pulled back, and the clip holds the bolt in place. At the bottom of it, you've got the trigger, which releases everything when you're ready to fire. The projectile for a crossbow is very similar to that you'd see in a bow and arrow, except it has two key differences. It is called a bolt, and it is shorter than an arrow. That's the first difference. And the other difference is instead of 3 fletches, you have 2, so that it can sit flat on top of the crossbow. Loading a crossbow is a very easy process. You start by taking your foot and placing it in the stirrup at the front of the bow. You then pull back your string and lock it in the rolling nut. Once this string is locked back, it can sit there all day. It's not going to go anywhere until I pull that trigger. A common thing they would have done is you take a block of wood, you put it right in that trigger, and it acts like a safety to make sure that string really doesn't go anywhere until you're ready to fire. Once you're done with that, you have your bolt, which has a couple of different tips depending on what you need to do. You've got some tips for hunting, in case you need to take down an animal. You've got some tips for armor, in case you need to take down a guy in armor. And you've got a flaming arrowhead, my personal favorite, if you need to do something like burn down that boathouse over there. So, once you're ready to fire, you take your bolt, place it flat on top of the crossbow, which you can do thanks to those two feathers, lock it in place with the clip, and you take aim. Now, shooting with a crossbow is a little bit more challenging than shooting with a rifle or a gun of some sort, because a crossbow does not have sights. So you kind of just have to guess a little bit. Let's see. Tide's up, wind's blowing towards me, bridge is down. And there we go. So I'm pretty happy with where that went, but I'm going to shoot another bolt for you just to show you how quickly this crossbow can be reloaded. Assuming that you don't accidentally bump the trigger with your leg. Let's start from the top. Pretty good again. Now see, even with me making that error, it was still under 45 seconds. So it's pretty quick. I'm going to turn you over to Dan the Man, and he's going to tell you about the cannon.
All right, let's get on the big cannon. That's awesome. All right, let's talk about cannons. Now, believe it or not, these are your state-of-the-art cannons for the 1500s. All right, cast iron muzzle-loaded cannons. Everything went down the muzzle, the front of this cannon. Powder went down, the wadding went down, the cannonball would go down. You fired off a sheet of cannonball anywhere from 1.5 miles to 2 miles. Very powerful. Then you had to get that wet sponge on a long stick over there. You had to ram it down in here, make sure all the embers are out before the powder guy could reload it, or else he risked blowing himself up. And that would take time. These would have been on your big ships, your big galleons. What Pedro Menendez brought with him in 1565 were 20 old cannons. That is a copy of a cannon they would have had in the late 1300s for medieval times. Breech charged, muzzle loaded, bomb barretta cannon. The key component is the cylinder you see there on the ground with the rings on it. It's called the servidor or powder mug. Each cannon would have several of those, and you can pre-fill those with the powder and the wadding. You pick one up, it weighs about 60 pounds, just slide the back of the tube. Pick up this big block of wood called a breech block. You put that down behind it, holds the servidor in place. That's the breech charged. And you take your 6-pound solid iron cannonball. This is the only thing that go down the front of that cannon. Fire it off, max range, about 1 mile. 9/10 of a mile to Bridge Alliance, so I can shoot that far. I don't know if I can hit it or not. The effective range, the accurate range was much closer, between 1/2 mile and 3/4 mile. So it's a much weaker cannon. You just got a block of wood holding things together, right? However, you didn't have to use the wet sponge on a long stick. You pulled the servidor out, you slap a new one in and roll a ball down. A team of guys could fire that cannon 3 to 4 times a minute. You get 20 cannons here, you're talking 60 to 80 cannonballs going down range. That's pretty impressive. What's not so impressive is this cannonball. Watch this.
Oh gosh.
See? Ta-da! I told you. Not very impressive. Didn't bounce, didn't blow up, didn't break apart. All right, nothing like you see in the Johnny Depp movies. Just a hunk of metal flying in the air. And against the big ships with the big cannons on there, probably bounce right off. But we're in luck, because the inlet back then is where the lighthouse is today, over behind those trees. The inlet was kind of narrow, and it was only about 9.5 feet deep during high tide. It wasn't deep enough to bring the big ships with the big cannons in here. You had to park them out in the ocean and come in here in either a longboat or a chalupa. Now, chalupa's not just a Taco Bell, guys. It's an actual Spanish workboat. We have one right over there. This cannonball traveling 400 miles an hour will go right through the longboats and chalupas like tissue paper. So if you're the invading force, you're coming in, your boat gets hit by the cannonball. If you're lucky enough to survive the impact and the splintering for that, now you're in the water with all that armor on, trying to keep your head up, trying to swim. Good luck with that. If for some reason you do get closer and closer, we're going to switch over to bags of grape shot, effectively turn our 20 cans into 20 shotguns. So even though they're older, they're weaker, they're obsolete for the time period, they're still very effective for protecting this area. Now the formula to fire a cannonball, because all these cannons fire different sizes. Whatever the cannonball weighs, half that weight in gunpowder is used for a full load. 6-pound cannonball.
3.
That core value math is really hard. 3, okay? We're now putting 3 pounds of gunpowder in that cannon. Put a fraction of that in there after Nash fires it off. I'll tell you how much we used. The other thing is we are not firing a cannonball. That is pointing over Volado Pier. People there, it's probably lunchtime. They're having some drinkies. They're trying to enjoy the afternoon. We can't be lobbing cannonballs at them, all right? But if you look closely, you may see the wadding fly out. We're using Spanish moss as the wadding. I'm going to give him 2 commands. Por España, which means for Spain. Fuego, he will fire the cannon. It's not going to be deafening, but you guys may want to plug your ears. Everybody else, you can get your device out, hit the record button, and record the firing so you can watch it later on over and over again. That's what we do. Listo? All right, guys, here we go. Por España! Por España! Fuego! Ah, the smell of history.
I can't even hear it. James, was it loud?
It almost made my ears.
All right, guys, listen up for a second. That was 2 ounces of gunpowder. 2 ounces. Can you imagine 3 pounds in there? All right, guys, that completes our demonstration. You've been great. Thank you, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
Canopy Oaks, we have to walk fast.
Okay,
We want to eat lunch.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna stop right here because we're gonna eat lunch, but I will continue after lunch. Okay, guys? See ya.